grandmother and the thought police. I'd like to think that Bill's novel may do the same. Few in our government and in the public sector have openly confronted the threat offered by the use of but one nuclear weapon in the hands of a determined enemy who calibrates it to trigger a massive EMP burst. Such an event would destroy our complex, delicate, high-tech society in an instant and throw all of our lives back to an existence equal to that of the Middle Ages. Millions would die in the first week alone, perhaps even you who are reading this, if you require certain medications, let alone the most basic needs of our lives, such as food and clean water. The place Bill writes about is real. He has set this story in his hometown and the college that he works at. I remember when he was writing the book and we'd talk. More than once he was deeply disturbed by what he had researched, discovered, and was now trying to express as a story for all to read. What hit him the most, he told me, is that he kept picturing his teenage daughter in this nightmare reality, and I think as you read the book you will see that point of identification. It struck me deeply as well, for I have 2 grandchildren. As he wishes to protect his daughter from this fate, so do I wish to protect my grandchildren, to be able to pass on to them an America that is safe from such threats. The threat is real, and we as Americans must face that threat, prepare, and know what to do to prevent it. For if we do not, 1 second after, the America we know, cherish, and love will be gone forever. For I have become death, the destroyer of worlds. Chapter 1. Black Mountain, North Carolina, 2:30 EDT. John Matherson lifted the plastic bag off the counter. "You sure I have the right ones?" he asked. Nancy, the owner of the shop, Ivy Corner, smiled. "Don't worry, John. She already had them picked out weeks ago. Give her a big hug and kiss for me. Hard to believe she's 12 today." John sighed and nodded, looking down at the bag stuffed with a dozen Beanie Babies, one for each year of Jennifer's life, which started 12 years ago this day. "Hope she still wants these at 13, he said. "God save me when that first boy shows up at the door wanting to take her out." The 2 laughed, Nancy nodding in agreement. He was already enduring that with Elizabeth, his 16-year-old, and perhaps for that and so many other reasons as well, he just wished that he could preserve, could drag out just for a few more days, weeks, or months, the precious time all fathers remember fondly, when they still had their little girl. It was a beautiful spring day. The cherry trees lining the street in full bloom, a light shower of pink petals drifting on the wind as he walked up the street past Doc Keller's office, the antique stores, the new, rather gothic-looking art gallery that had opened last month, the usual curio shops, and even an old-style ice cream parlor at $1.50 a scoop. Next up the street was Benson's Used and Rare Books. John hesitated. Wanted to go in just for a few minutes, then pulled out his cell phone to check the time. 2:30. Her bus would be rolling in at 3, no time today to go in, have a cup of coffee, and talk about books and history. Walt Benson saw him, held up a cup, gesturing for John to join him. He shook his head, pointing to his wrist, even though he never wore a watch, and continued to walk up to the corner to where his Talon SUV was parked in front of Taylor's Hardware and General Store. John paused and looked back down the street for a moment. "I'm living in a damn Norman Rockwell painting," he thought yet again, for the 1,000th time. Winding up here. He never imagined it, never planned for it, or even wanted it. 8 years back, he was at the Army War College, Carlisle, PA, teaching military history and lecturing on asymmetrical warfare and waiting to jump the hoop and finally get his first star. And then 2 things happened. His promotion came through with assignment to Brussels as a liaison to NATO, a rather nice posting to most likely end out his career. And then Mary had returned from the doctor's several days after the promotion, her face pale, lips pressed tight, and said 4 words. "I have breast cancer."